Hi friends, let's take a look at Tezos together. Let's see how the prices have been getting on. Okay, so they've come back down a wee bit at the minute. You know, we're looking at, in terms of the Bitcoin pairing prices, 3,000 Satoshis. We've come down a couple of times over the last wee while towards this golden pocket zone, you know, come down towards it again and retested it. Are we going to do that another time? Is there anything that is maybe poking its head up there to say that this is maybe a wee bit more positive? Well, we actually see quite a lot of negative things really existing in the other markets at the minute. Now, of course, we're in an uptrend overall, so Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink, what I've looked at so far today, could all just continue to go towards the top side based off purely off the fact that it's in an uptrend, and that's enough in and of itself. Totally is. But there's actually a lot of technical reasons for it to be bearish at the moment in general, as there has been for the last wee while. Now, we've seen this and we predicted the sort of the head and shoulders movement and everything else and where we could come down to. Have we done enough in terms of Tezos? And can Tezos be the one that actually has sort of leads the way for a wee while towards the top side, having not really had the benefit of doing that, or the you know, the fun of doing that so far in its over the last few weeks? At least that's the feeling that people get. Whereas as a trader, you know, this has really been nice for trading, really nice for trading, really nice for trading. But, you know, as a sort of investor and all the rest of it, what you want to see is the prices going towards the top side. So let's take a look at that versus Bitcoin and versus the dollar coin here as well, and as maybe as well versus Ethereum. But we don't need, you know, look at these lines, you know, like we're below them at the minute. If we don't go above that point, then we're going down to that point. This is as simple as as it needs to be. That's fine. Anyway, that's great. But what I will say, by the way, to people is there's a couple of things. You know, you can join the Discord and you can catch up with people who are all very much of a similar mindset to yourself, and I would check out the Bitcoin videos, okay? Because if they're shadow banned for Bitcoin and Ethereum on YouTube, of course I am, but you can check those videos out because you will benefit hugely from watching them on a daily basis. There's so much value there. You actually transform your trading from being sort of zero to hero if you subscribe for that, and I would really recommend that you share them with your friends as well and help me get beyond the point of being shadow banned on YouTube, you know, and overcome that hurdle, because the videos get no views, and really they warrant thousands. They do. They're that good, honestly, and I hate blowing my own trumpets. I hate it, but I feel like I have to because nobody's watching them. And ain't nobody else going to blow my trumpet for me, right? Cool. Okay, so let's go on and see right now. I think there's quite a, you know, fairly obvious indication to people about what's going on at the minute, just purely in terms of this candle right now. Should we close this? This is the 4-hour time frame. How long we got? 2 hours and 15 minutes left on this one. Should we close this anywhere below the prices of sort of 30,039, or of course 30,390 if you're talking about the real numbers in terms of Satoshi levels, then what you're looking at the oscillators down below is bullish divergence. Okay, we've got the stochastics coming in here, and it looks like it's maybe not going to be bullishly divergent. Actually, it's going to converge, but we've got the RSI giving us a touch of that bullish divergence, and that's good to see if you're looking for things to turn around. And likewise, the MACD has it as well, and the DMI has it as well on there. So, like, you know, 3 out of 4 ain't bad on that front. Here's the 200 simple though, and we're below that on the 4-hour time frame at the minute. Now, it's not going to be too much. It wouldn't be too much of a coincidence if I flicked up different time frames and you saw these things kind of wrapping around each other at different levels. But I'm just going straight up towards the 24-hour time frame to show you that we're right here on the 50 simple moving average here. I haven't had a golden cross back here. Big rise up in the price action, then a drop down. And what do we say happens after they get golden crosses? You know, two things. One, the world goes crazy and starts saying that everything's super bullish, wah, wah, wah. And then Rocky Outcrop say, hey, hold on a second. While it could absolutely go towards the top side, we so often see it come back down and retest one, if not both, of those moving averages. And it's at this point here where you find it, if we get support, that you could trade off the back of this crossover here, not off this crossover here, thinking that we're going all the way up and it's to the moon, baby. It's to the moon. No, it's actually over here where you would do that. We've also had a 618 Fibonacci retracement off the back of all this at the same sort of time. So very, very nice. A lot of confluence there in terms of if you wanted to get bullish off of this. Now, you could also talk about things like whether or not we see us actually, if we retake this area just above the neutral zone, back where the moving average is, retake out the moving average here in the 24-hour time frame towards the top side, also quite bullish. Looking at this, if we see this turn around here at the neutral zone, which would be considered to be sort of oversold, when in an uptrend, which I would say that we are, although it's not like a beautiful uptrend, having been so sideways for so long. I do understand, I do sympathize with people who say Tezos never pumps, but trading this has been like, this is trading, this is money, right? But investing, okay, it never pumps, whatever. Never pumps. By the way, what is a pump? What do people mean when they say it never pumps, considering that it went up like 60% there recently? What is that they mean? Just a couple of weeks ago did that. And as well, I mean, it dumps too. Like if you're looking to trade this and short it down, it dumps, 23% move towards the downside. Tasty. So, got to be aware of these things. Looking at this, then if we see this turn around from this point here, then lovely, a jubbly, and that would be good. So I kind of have really covered off everything that I wanted to cover. There's a couple other things that I should point out that, just over here, we had this previous next zone area, and that kind of creates a point of inflection. And these things don't just evaporate out of the market after you move past them. To be perfectly honest, they still have a sort of ongoing influence. And as you can see, this candle that rose up went straight through that zone. Then the market was thinking to itself, hey, hold on a second, we went through that too quickly. Let's come back down and retest it. We did, and actually then went straight up again as well, rejecting past this and up towards key areas in the market, which then subsequently then turned out to be where the 50% Fibonacci retracement was right on the close of that body, subsequent to where we ultimately moved up to, as you can see there on that one. Then we came all the way back down again. So this is kind of a key zone as well in terms of support for us. So, all of these things could be fairly good in terms of the pricing on the Bitcoin pair. Now, of course, as well, like I say, watch the Bitcoin video. Nobody out there is watching them. They get no views when they really should be getting thousands of views, because that's how good they are. But hey, whatever. But I really do recommend you watch them, and subscribe, by the way, for the channel, and hit that bell button so you get notified about all the videos that come out. Because, like I say, I'm shadow banned on everything, basically, as you are doing crypto stuff. But there you go. It's really, 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 really good stuff. Really good stuff. Sorry for teaching to the choir, though. I know everybody that knows that it's really good stuff already is probably bored of me hearing me say it. Okay, going over towards the dollar pricing, we've got a couple of things to talk about here. For instance, we have this fallen wedge, talking about things being kind of bullish, perhaps, if they were to break out past this zone. And it looked like maybe we could have been doing that with the S3's price action, but of course we only really faked out, having never really achieved anything higher than the previous, wicks, and never gone up past we never even tested 236 on this one, which we'd consider this whole area to be like fake out territory on that. And what do we say on the channel all the time? Well, we always say that these things are subjective and can be drawn in a number of different ways by different people. So if you were to look at this as still being a fallen wedge, which it could be, then you'd be looking at that. Perhaps even you could make it, you could do something like this to make it even more wedgy looking, so you get that nice wedge feeling when you look at it. Of course, failures on these things often then turn into parallel channels. So if I just remove both of those things and pull out the parallel channel tool instead and stick it on, then you can see that a failure to cooperate with us here on this one could just kind of turn this into a parallel channel like we have towards the downside here on that. But I'm going to undo all of that and go back to this for just now and say, well, this still remains the case. And when we're looking at the Bitcoin parent being fairly decent overall, then that's okay. But if we did push on down past this, where can we consider fake out territory to be in terms of movement towards the downside? It's got to be in here, looking at the 618, just in here between the green grass of home lines. The 618 coming in there at 330 and 330, right? So that would be, I'd expect to see a bounce there, bouncy bounce, perhaps if we need to see one, and consider it to be fake out territory, and actually look at this orange line going sideways and say, if you're looking for this to actually really F off towards the downside, then I'd be looking at movements beyond that zone for that. And of course, then you could talk about things differently, but we'll come back and cover things, of course, because we do these videos on a weekday daily basis. I might come back on Sunday and do some more. I'm not too sure, but I'm definitely taking tomorrow off. I needed a nap today. I was so tired. I was just so tired. I needed a nap because I was doing gardening and stuff yesterday and just took all my energy. If we do break out of this thing, this is, of course, is like sort of the rough 60% measure on this thing. That could take us above the 236 and we'd be fairly satisfied from that. And you can see this takes us into this line here in the background of this grey zone. We'll cover that in just a second. If we go for the full measured move, like just kind of rough guess on this thing, is that about right? Then you'd be taking us up towards all-time highs again, which would be pretty good, of course. So either of those, that's kind of like your two upward side targets on that front. But what is this grey zone? Well, actually, if I zoom right out, you can see that this is a pitchfork that I've got drawn in, was that requested by somebody to look at pitchforks. Now, of course, people say to me, somebody said to me, too many indicators. I don't mind. I'm totally agnostic as to what you use. It's really about what works for you. Excuse me, I just hit the microphone. About what works for you, of course, not what works for me and all the rest of it. Somebody asked me to start using pitchforks a wee bit because nobody else on YouTube does it. And well, hey, they're pretty good. I mean, there's a thing. So whatever. So I did, and whatever. And plenty of successful traders do use them. And what do we find the price action having done? If I zoom right in here on this, is that we've come all the way down towards the lower end of this pitchfork. This would be called your lower warning line on this one, and that means that we can do a couple of things here to kind of extend beyond this area. Now, if you watch the Ethereum videos, and like I say, you really, really, really should. Is it Ethereum? No, Bitcoin. If you watch the Bitcoin videos, then you will know about how you can sort of extend these things out. But I'll just do it here on this one as well, just so you can see. And we can call this sort of like your most 2 point targets thereafter. Of course, this comes in a previous 618 golden pocket retracement zone, whatever. I should probably just take that off actually for now. Yeah, screw it. This comes in around about the 786 then, actually, in terms of the Fibonacci retracement that we're looking at, where the median line is. And if we go on all the way down towards the bottom, then you've got your 100% retrace. And what you have in these two zones here as well is the 50 simple moving average and the 200 simple moving average. And those would be two targets to look out for as well towards the downside should we move outside of that zone. And how does that line up then with the measuring stick of this guy? The measuring stick of this guy is its official title. That brings you all the way down there if you're looking at a full measured move. But a 60% one would take you down towards the median line of this parallel channel, which is between but really, if you do zoom out, if you do go beyond, break out the pitchfork towards the downside, this would be your target kind of down here towards 274, and that's where we see the sort of apex of the previous symmetrical triangle or this descending triangle come in at. I'm actually going to remove the top line on that one instead and just put this lower support area in there and say, that would be it there at 275 if you were looking towards the downside, and anything beyond that would be extremely greedy in terms of shorting this thing, but overall, though, we are in an uptrend, and I would say that that's probably the most likely thing to continue, although we do see a few things here in terms of movements beyond the neutral zone, and we rejected from the neutral line in the first pass, then we've come down past it. Want to see this have a sort of a failure swing on this one, retrace a tiny wee bit up. It's still possible to do that on the 24-hour time frame, go towards the top side. I want to see all that happening. Doesn't necessarily have to, so we're aware of all that in terms of trading this bad boy, and yeah, that's pretty good, I think, in terms of all of that stuff. We got this symmetrical triangle over here that we had on the charts. We did have a measuring stick on this one as well. It's looking at roughly 60% style on that one. That would take you down towards the 50 simple moving average. That would be then currently on this chart there. That comes in at about $3.15. So I'd look out for that. 55 is in there at 330 as well. 330 being a more key area, I think, for us really. But if we did go down to that 50 simple, where does that tie in with this previous line on the charts that I've just extended over to it? Coincidence? I think not, my dear. So if we did go down there, that's what we'd be looking at. But of course, this is all speculative really, and that I'm more interested and more intrigued looking at this than I am looking at this. But this is certainly in play right now, and we're just really more in around about fake out territory. Need to see the 21 EMA visual order bring to front. Thanks very much. Need to see this here be retaken, moving back up above the 365 area and moving towards the top side if we want to see that not be the case, in terms of this sort of structure of things. It's fair enough to look at it that way. What do we also have on there in terms of this? Well, we came up here, we hit the top end of our huge long-term rising wedge. Now, of course, at some point, what goes up must come down, and from a massive macro perspective, it's fair enough to have a huge rising wedge on the go here. And we would want to see, $3 operate as support if we need it to, and then thereafter, next targets coming up towards that sort of 480 area, and things like we've spoken about as well in the recent past. If we were to kind of stay within this thing in the big broad term perspective, I wouldn't mind. I don't need things to go to the moon overnight. While everybody wants to get rich quick, I actually don't mind having to sort of do it in the longer term if this is overall signals a nice long bull trend looking towards some point next year, whatever, say February 2021 before it drops down. that would be nicer. Looking at other things as well, key interest for us includes the HIT BTC chart. We're charting on this thing has actually been spectacular in terms of like how it obeys the technicals, which is quite strange given it's a scam exchange. Lol. We joke about that, by the way, a lot. Anyway, we're down below the 21 EMA on this thing, coming back down towards our sort of previous targets in there at $3.09. I actually want to see if this gets supported by the 55 EMA. Should it push beyond this area over here? If I just take another line out of this and draw over, where our previous high was, overall, having come down and retested this zone is actually okay. But I do want to see this retrace towards the top side and ideally take out this 236 so we don't have a valid Fibonacci on the go. If we did see one, and that, then of course in terms of this thing you're looking down to $2.30 for the golden pocket on it. $2 and it's actually $2.25 to $2.18 I would say probably for the golden pocket on that one if you were to get that. And there's other things that you could look at as well in terms of is this a bear flag or bull flag, sorry. So I always seem to choose the wrong word whenever I'm speaking about these things. Right, okay, what as well could we just be in if we just sort of channeled this out for a while and we didn't really go in any particular difference, didn't really break out of this overall, then you could be looking at sort of targets back there at 350s and stuff like that. On this exchange we would bring this other one up to about 380, 390, so things to look at for there. Obviously what we want to see in terms of this thing is movements up above the $4.05 areas we've been talking about in the Discord recently, which I encourage you to join because that's where this sort of the support was for us previously, and moving up past that would obviously sort of signal the end of this current sort of bearishness that we're experiencing just now. Jumping over towards the Ethereum prices and then seeing that we've got this fuzzy line that's coming in here, then how does that tie in with the prices that we've got? Like is this okay? Between these two zones here there was the chance for a bullish divergence to be working out. We've come on up then towards this really quite high up here at the 0.115 area, and then we've come all the way back down to the 88 sort of 0.0088 area, or even below that currently, where we find ourselves at 0.0878. And I want to see us retake this line. Movements on beyond this could be kind of negative. We could be looking then down towards the lower time frames for a bit of the more positivity. And what do we have if we zoom right on in here and draw a random line on the chart by accident because we forget that we've got the brush tool activated instead of the pointer thing? What we can see here is that if we did move down below this at all, the prices were to actually close in the period of the next couple of hours against Ethereum in that sort of 0.00875, then you'd have bullish divergence quite probably operating quite probably on the RSI. It was a close called thing. Even if it was just class B, it could probably be there. Overall, I don't really care about the divergence as much as I care about it kind of moving towards the top side. You can see that there is actually the divergence there on the MACD and on the RSI, so we don't need to see it on all of them. And possibly on the DMI as well. If I were to extend this up a bit and just kind of look at it, no, it's not quite there on the DMI. So whatever. No, it would be. Divergent in a sense that it'd be sort of from a fail. What is it called? Because I've forgotten it since the other day. I don't really care, but there's all these different concepts when it comes to looking at things, like so simply not putting in a lower or putting in a not putting in lower low in price action and putting in a more strength, here on the stochastics and here on the DMI in terms of the oscillators down below has its own sort of divergent basis for discussing things, but that's kind of a little bit sort of like, it's like scraping the barrel when you're looking at things like that. But it's true, it's a thing, and you can see here that we've not come lower. Well, we have over here, we're not in an uptrend, so you wouldn't say that was bullish divergence or hidden bullish divergence. But it's kind of like that, and it would turn out to be hidden bullish divergence if we retook out our previous high at 95, 0.0095. Then you would be saying, hey, look, we've had this on the go. So you'd be aware of that, and that's good to be aware of, and that's going to wrap us up. How long has this episode lasted for? I don't know. Can't tell actually anymore looking at that timer. So anyway, like I say, the Bitcoin video is really, really good. Ethereum video is really, really good. Shadow banned on all of them. I know you don't all trade them. I know that, a lot of you are sort of Tezos maximalists out there. Fair enough. But I would say that there's a lot of good value in them and that you really ought to kind of look at the overall market, if we see things over the next wee while, like for instance, this end up being a high that we have, but it kind of, fails to go past our previous highs here on the Friday and just signals to us that we're maybe going to move down the way in terms of traditional land. There's other ones that we could look at. So like, what did I just do? All right, NQ1 exclamation mark, sorry. Didn't put the exclamation mark in. Then, you know, we're up here at highs as well in the NASDAQ, you know, this ridiculous trend, you know, if this actually then works out as being what it actually is kind of coming in at the minute, you know, bearishly divergent high here on this one, maybe that'll give us a sort of foresight into how things could go. Be aware of these things for the trend. I would like to see Tezos be the one that kind of bucks it while other things suffer, as we've seen things suffering quite dramatically in terms of the link prices, for instance, here. Look at that, down 15% for today. Quite tragic for some things, while the prices here, while they are down, aren't as bad as link. So hey, you know, you're winning, kind of. But I'd look out for these things, okay? I'd look out for them as well. If you've been sort of exposed to people talking about how the futures are really contangled at the minute, and they interpret that wrongly because they're not really traders and they don't know how these things work, and they don't know what they're talking about, but they've got massive followings on YouTube, for instance. Be aware that that's not actually the case, really. Not really at the minute, and we're actually seeing the premium drop off a wee bit. So we need to see a lot of positivity happen across the markets, really, for us, or else for Tezos to be the one that bucks the trend, and that's what we're looking at the minute. Or else things aren't that great for the perma bulls out there, you know, right? Okay, that's the reality of it on the ground. Okay, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Okay, but we could see things kind of operate slightly differently for Tezos than it does for other things. We could, based on all the positive things I kind of covered at the start of the show, depending on, you know, how we cope with this little area just here, for instance, on the Bitcoin pair, and how we cope with all this muck here on the chart on the dollar pair. I'll clean it up over the weekend. I'm away off now. Thanks very much. Hit the subscribe button. Really do appreciate it. Share it with your friends. YouTube.com/Rocky Outcrop. Find me on Twitter at Rocky_Outcrop. And all the rest of it. Yeah, join me in the Discord. I would really appreciate it. I also don't want this to turn into hidden bearish divergence. Do you see this on these highs here? You know, on the MACD, this high having up as this high having gone up higher. Do you see it? I have to see what I've seen on the charts. I have to see it. You know, so there is the hidden bearish divergence that's there. I should have pointed that out earlier. Normally, what I normally would do is start looking for hidden bearish or hidden bullish, and then say the regular one, so I don't forget. That's what I recommend if you're going to do this at home. Look out for that. It's on the 4-hour time frame. Could we see it turn around though? I've already covered all the cases for that. Catch you next time. Thanks so much for joining in.